Hello, welcome to Tech Transform. Today we are here to discuss about the concept on Apache HBase. Remember, we have talked about integrating Hadoop with SQL solutions like Pig and Hive. It means structured data. But what about if we are going to deal with a massive amount of data? SQL solutions like RDBMS, relational database management systems, are very handy for the rich analytical query to answer your basic questions. But what about if you have massive big amount of data like Google's or Amazon? They used to get billions or millions of transactions in a second, and they need to show their customer, okay, what are the movie recommendation for the particular user, who customers visited, number of web pages in Google, and what they searched. They need to show the product recommendation in Amazon. So these are the very massive data sets. These cannot sit in a single machine in a single MySQL or SQL RDBMS system. For that, it needs to scale to the multiple different clusters of computers. And in order to get that query very faster in a very high transactional rate, the the RDBMS like concept MySQL SQL Server is not will be your answer. In that case, Apache HBase is coming into picture. It can query your database very faster. So we can call a NoSQL database or also as non-relational database, or not only SQL database. We all already discussed why NoSQL database, why NoSQL. What is NoSQL database? So this is the Apache HBase logo. Apache HBase, it's a non-relational distributed column-oriented database. Remember, in RDBMS or MySQL, we can call it as a row-oriented database where you have a different. If you in each row your column is fixed, your column cannot be dynamic. But in HBase, it's distributed column-oriented database built on top of Hadoop file system. So in HBase, the columns are dynamic in each row. You can keep multiple dynamic number of column in each row, but in RDMS you cannot. I will tell you why it is necessary to keep dynamic columns in each row. Let's say you are a user and you are using a profile. You have a lot of certain profiles, social media profiles, LinkedIn profiles, uh, YouTube profiles, and all those. So different profiles contain set of different number of columns, so you cannot go with a fixed schema. You need to have a something called dynamic schema. Here the HBase comes. HBase stores each row. It can hold n number of columns, and it will never complain you that okay, no, you have to give me, and you're only allowed to put fixed number of columns. So that's what the HBase is data model that is similar to actually Google's created this solution and put the white paper in public around their big table. That's called Google Big Table, and it's based upon that. It leverages the fault tolerance provided by the Hadoop file system and is also very resilient. And the main feature is it can give you quick random access to a huge amount of the structured data. If your data is so big, it will give you random access rather than scanning full table scan. So that's why its query is very faster. It is a part of Hadoop ecosystem that provides random real-time read-write access to data in the Hadoop file system. Also, one can store the data in HDFS either directly or through the HBase. Data consumer reads accesses the data in HDFS randomly using HBase. HBase sits on top of the Hadoop file system and provides read and write access. That's what is HBase. Let's go to next slide. HBase architecture, its tables are basically split into regions and are served by the region servers. Regions are not the geographical region. It's the region because in HBase the each row is partitioned. Each row is defined with a single with a unique key, like in your primary key in normal database RDBMS system. So let's say if you have big data, so different number of partitions of the what you called of this primary key in this HBase tables will go in a different region. So basically the sharding of the primary keys of the HBase, it will accommodate a different region. That's what we call as a region servers. and it's a vertically divided, and it can divided with the column families, and that is called stores. Stores are saved as a files in HDFS. So this is what the structure is. How storage mechanism is happening in HBase? Basically, it's a column oriented database, and the tables is in it are stored by row. The table schema defines only column families, which are the key value pairs. A table have multiple column families, and each column family can have a n number of columns. Subsequent column values are stored contiguously on the disk. Each cell value of the table has a timestamp in sort in an HBase. So here you can see you have a first row. Let's say this is the unique row for the each row. But here you can have a here you don't have a columns. Here in HBase we can combine three or more or n number of columns and put it into a single column family. Again, let's say the relevant column. Let's say the column 1, column 2, column 3 contains the user address data, like address 1, address 2, zip code, and all those. So it will go inside. We can create a column family called address, and we can in future if we can add n number of column inside a column family. That's what the dynamic columns in a single row. We can give a Facebook profile details, and we can add n number of columns here, let's say. So like this we can store multiple data for a single user. And in the next user, let's say if I'm storing data for next user, so it doesn't give you any error or something like that. It is expecting that you have to give whatever you have given in the row 1. Your row family, your next level of row can be changed with a different number of set of columns. Table is a collection of rows. Row is a collection of column families. That is nothing, the combination of columns. Column family is a collection of columns, and each column is a collection of key value pair. So inside column, the value is stored with a key value pair. Key is just the column one, and the value is the actual value. And along with that, HBase is also preserving this is called as one sale. So it's HBase preserving the versions of that particular sale. So what happen if you are changing any value? It will put a timestamp. According to timestamp, it will create a different versions of that. So you will always have a version what changes you have done in past. So that's what the power of HBase. Let's understand what is the row oriented database versus column oriented database. Row oriented database is nothing, RDBMS. Column oriented database is nothing, NoSql. So as you can see, it is suitable for online transaction process, OLTP process. It is suitable for online analytical processing. What is the difference? Online transaction process, like banking system. So your transaction rate is very high for row oriented. You have to wait for availability and consistency. But in column oriented database, you need to pull data very fast. You need to pull data very fast in order to do some analysis, like for marketing, sales, and all those. Row oriented means such databases are designed for a small number of rows and columns, but column oriented databases are designed for huge tables, for big data. Online transaction process such as banking and finance domains use this approach. When the situation comes to process and analyticals, we use this approach, such an online analytical process and its application. Let's say sales, marketing data, marketing insights, and all those. It is designed for a small number of rows and columns. The amount of data that can be able to store in this model is very huge, like in terms of petabytes of data, because it's going to scale in a distributed environment. You can vertically scale your data. You need more data, you can add more hardware, and you can scale it horizontally. But in MySQL, it's not possible. Column family, we already know. Let's say we have some employee data. So we can identify any column that is unique for employee ID, and you can put inside personal data. You can pick two columns for name and city and put into a one column family that is called personal data, and you can put professional data in a designation and salary. You can put designation salary column into personal data column family. So that's how it stores the data. Features of HBase is linearly scalable, means you can add more hardware in the future. Let's say Google and Google and Amazon, they are dealing with millions of data. In future, their data is growing exponentially. In order to serves the data, serve the user in the future also, they need to enable linear scalable, so they can add more hardwares or storages in order to fulfill more data. So that's what HBase is allowing. It has a automatic failure support, means it's very resilient. It provides consistent read and writes, so it's very consistent, means it is as soon as you're changing your data, you will be see the changes upfront. It will not it is it doesn't have any latency. It integrates with Hadoop both as source and destination. Either you can put data from HBase to Hadoop or a Hadoop to HBase. It has an easy Java API for client. It provides data app replication across clusters. It can replicate data or it can copy or backup data across clusters. Use of HBase. Apache HBase is used to have random real-time read-write access of big data. HBase is used whenever we need to provide fast random access to available data. Means you in MySQL query is going to scan all the tables, but HBase is capable of randomly access data. That's what HBase makes very faster. It hosts very large tables on top of clusters of commodity hardware. Apache HBase is a non-relational database modeled after Google's big tables. After Google big tables, this is created. Big tables acts upon Google file system. Likewise, Apache HBase works on top of Hadoop and HDFS file system. The history of HBase: in November 2006, Google released a white paper on big table. How they released the secret of their infrastructure, how they are dealing with the big data with the big table. Initial HBase prototype was created as a Hadoop contribution. In October 2007, the first usable HBase along with Hadoop, uh, this version was released. Then later in Jan 2008, HBase became the sub project of Hadoop and it's became very popular. Then the different versions of Hadoop released in 2008, 9 and 2009, September 2009. In May 2010, HBase became a Apache top level project. And also in Google Facebook Messenger, they were utilizing this HBase, but later in 2000 they discontinued the HBase. So that's all for this for this HBase introduction. I will be coming I will come with different video in my upcoming sessions, and we'll discuss about implementation of HBase practically, and we'll do hands-on. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye.